हरि ओम।
हरि ओम।
हरि ओम।
हरि ओम।
Hari Om, everybody.
Okay, let's start. Om. प्रातस्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित् सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तिमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनं पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. We'll chant from verses 22 to 26 of chapter 2. Verses 22 to 26. वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुः अचलोऽयं सनातनः अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि. Okay. So, Lord Krishna is demonstrating the ultimate truth in this section, talking about the indestructibility of the embodied. What is the embodied? There are two levels at which we have to look at this embodied. One is the relative level, which most people are familiar with, most people talk about, know about. And the second is the absolute level. That is the level from the level of enlightenment. People are less familiar about this, perhaps more confused about this concept. So at the relative level, What is the embodied? At the relative level, we all are familiar with the concept of beyond your physical body, there is an inner being, the embodied, that which is in this body or that which has assumed this body, which doesn't end at death. It carries on, it continues on its journey, right? You want to call it the soul, you want to call it the personality, the persona, whatever you want to call it, give it any name. Vedanta calls it vasanas, sukshma sharira or karana sharira, right? So beyond this physical form, there is the embodied, which continues after death into a next incarnation. Birth is just the other side of the coin of death. This is the relative level, that beyond the physical form, there is an embodied, a sukshma, a subtle form, a subtle body which continues beyond this incarnation. From an absolute level, Vedanta talks about spirit and matter. Whether it's the physical body or the subtle body or the causal body, all of it comes under matter. But beyond matter, there is spirit, the Atman. Beyond your body, beyond your mind, beyond your intellect, beyond your vasanas, the core of your being, that Sakshi, there is within you a witness. There is within you the deepest aspect of the embodied, the ultimate embodied, which is called the Atman. This Atman is neither born nor dies. This Atman is eternal. It is not subject to birth and death. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be affected. The Atman is the Sakshi, witnessing all of this. It is witnessing the body and its actions. It is also witnessing the mind and its feelings, the intellect and its thoughts. It is observing the play of vasanas. It is the observer, the witness. The word Sakshi comes from this concept. This Atman is not subject to birth or death. This Atman does not move. This Atman is all pervading. To realize that, to attain that state of the Atman, which is all pervading in you, in me, that realization is called self-realization. That realization is called enlightenment. That realization is called nirvana, whatever you want to call it. And that is your purpose, that is my purpose. And up until we attain that state, up until we realize our real identity, we meet who we are, that state, until we attain that state, we will not rest content. It's like this. Right now you are awake. The moment you go to sleep, you will enter a dream world. And in the dream world will have a dreamer, the dream individual, along with all the dream things and dream beings and dream flora and dream fauna. It'll have all the aspects of the dream. In the dream, the dreamer will look at everything separately, distinctly, will look at things and beings as other than himself or herself. So long as you are in the dream, you will experience a pluralistic phenomenon of things and beings, and you will have a separation of identity. But the truth is that the dreamer, along with all the dream things and dream beings, is all originating from that one waker's mind. It is all a projection of the same mind. That same entity has projected all of this. When the dreamer wakes up, they will realize they are the waker who projected all of this. The entire dream world is coming from the waker's mind, that one waker's mind. While the dreamer is dreaming, they are in ignorance of who they truly are. When they wake up, they realize that all that is there in the dream, whether it's me, whether it's someone else, whether it's some other object, it is all part of that same reality, the waker's mind. So when the dreamer wakes up, he realizes the truth. Similarly, when you wake up from this waking state, you will realize that all of this world and everything that's in it, all objects, all things, are all part of that one connected reality. We call it the Atman. that timeless, eternal, unchanging Atman. So that's the absolute state. Some people find solace in the relative explanation, and that's all they need and that's all they want. Some people find solace in the fact that, okay, my soul, my subtle body is continuing on its own journey, and Prabhu ki kripa hai, to all well and good. If that's what you find solace in, so be it. But it's a theory. It's a theory. And all theories exist to pacify your mind. So if it pacifies your mind, that's good. But beyond that, the ultimate truth will only be realized upon waking up. So the scriptures nudge us in this direction. The scriptures give us various theories to soothe our agitation, to calm ourselves so that we can turn meditative. And ultimately, in ultimate meditation, there is a realization, there is an unfoldment, there is a awakening, right? So all theories and concepts are inviting you towards that ultimate awakening. So long as you are disturbed and distracted and agitated in the world, you cannot devote yourself to this awakening, right? So you need all sorts of ideas and concepts to keep your mind at bay, right? What I'm saying may sound a little distasteful or little detestable, but this is what it is. If you say, I know exactly what happens after that, you don't know what you're talking about. If you say, this is exactly what happens, on the 13th day the soul goes and it flutters somewhere and it takes a new body, who told you this? Okay, even if someone told you this, have you seen it happen? Once you see it happen, once you experience it, pratyaksha, then you come and talk. See, I'm not asking you to disbelieve something, but Vedanta has no place for belief or disbelief. Vedanta has only values realization. Ultimately, Vedanta only values enlightenment. I was just thinking about this morning. See, right now Vedanta will talk about the Atman. Right now, Vedanta, in chapter 2, we are talking about the Atman and how the Atman is a Sakshi, a witness. Everything is functioning according to Vasanas. The body is functioning according to Vasanas. The mind is functioning according to Vasanas. And the Atman is the disconnected witness of all of this. The Atman doesn't do anything. In the same Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 11, Bhagavan says, surrender to me, I am doing everything. If we think about it, if we really think about it, these two ideas are sort of contradictory. Now you'll tell me, oh my God, so far I was understanding everything, now you're confusing me. Either you can feel like that. See, if you're here to simply get an explanation, अच्छा मुझे कुछ बोल दो ताकि मैं समझ के मान लूं, then ठीक है, but perhaps ultimately this class is not for you. The purpose of this class is to make you think. As I've said before, we're not here to give you answers. We are here to only provoke more questions. We're here to only make you contemplate. So the scriptures also have a way of saying apparently paradoxical, apparently contradictory things. If you get to the depth of it, there is no contradiction, there is no paradox. If you get to the depth of it. But they'll say almost apparently contradictory things, paradoxical things, only to prod you into thinking. What is the ultimate message? So there is a relative message and there is the absolute message. While you take solace, find solace in the relative message, and indeed you should. But a part of you that, see, remember, there are two birds. There's a beautiful analogy in the Upanishad. There are two birds. One bird which is eating the fruit. There are two birds perched on a tree. One bird is eating the fruit of the tree. It is picked out on a fruit and it's pecking on it. The other bird is watching. So within you, there are these two birds. One aspect of you which is engaged in the world, eating its fruit, participating in everything that is happening. For that bird, the relative concept is soothing, it's pacifying. It gives it a sense of belonging. But ultimately, you have to assume that state of that second bird, that observer, that witness. And for that witness is the ultimate message, is the absolute message. So that's the offering of Vedanta. Take what you want, take what you will. It has something to give to a spiritual initiate, someone who's starting off on the journey, and also someone who is ready to graduate. Right? It's the entire buffet. Pick what you want, pick what you need. Are there any questions? Okay. So this concept of reincarnation is what he talks about in verse number 22. We had finished with verse number 21. This concept of the subtle body moving from one gross body to another, which we have discussed in the last couple of classes, is ultimately demonstrated in this verse in no uncertain terms. Verse number 22, it's a very famous verse. Yeah, Ankit, you have a question? Oh, can you not unmute yourself? Oh, my bad. I thought everyone was unmuting themselves. My bad.
Yeah, now I can.
Yeah, now it is unmuted.
So I don't have a question. I think Rashmi ji had a
Yeah.
question and she mentioned in the chat she couldn't unmute, so I raised my hand.
Oh, okay. That's very kind.
The other day you were talking about thoughts, that the body is made up of thoughts. Now I have experienced that you have one positive thought, it makes everything different. And one negative thought can lead you from the smallest negative thought to the biggest. Even a small smile changes the way of thinking. That's what I thought was very nice. And very
Correct.
true.
So, and the point is not just any passing thought that makes the body. It is crystallized thought. It is thought which you focus on. It's a thought which you repeat, which you devote yourself to. That creates your body and your environment.
True,
Right?
true.
If you invest continuously in a way of thinking, good or bad,
Mhm.
it shapes your body, it shapes your environment. That is what was implied in the
It's a crystallized thought that makes the difference. Either way.
as Lord Krishna says later, whatever your Shraddha is, I allow it.
Yes.
Positive or negative, good or bad, whatever you devote consistent, constant, repeated thought to, that is what materializes ultimately.
Yes. I just felt it's so important to watch your thoughts, be aware of what you're thinking, and shut out the negative ones and stress on the positive thoughts only.
Indeed. And beyond negative and positive thoughts, stress on reality.
Reality. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Since we're talking about reality.
Mhm.
Yeah, Rashmi, do you have a question? Are you here? You're not
So
here.
yes, suppose we dislike something or some situation, will we not attract that in the next life?
Whatever you are, see, your job out here is to become sakshi, to become witness, to become neutralized to everything. Because what you continuously think about, you manifest. dislike is also a continuous thought. In fact, chances are it's likely that you're attached to what you dislike more than what you like. Because what you think more about is what causes you pain. See, suppose you have a toothache. All day you're thinking about the tooth. You're not thinking about your elbow because it's not giving you any pain. Right? So what is painful, what you dislike is what you're constantly thinking about, what you're attached to. So nature has a way of manifesting particularly what you dislike. So it's in your interest to step away, neutralize yourself to anything and everything. Watch the play of things and beings instead of getting enmeshed and involved and agitated by it. Right? Yes, Omji.
It's
Utsaji,
difficult though.
Utsaji, we are talking of Atmabodh when we are saying enlightenment. English enlightenment doesn't really mean Atmabodh. But Atmabodh is a awareness of your Atma. I think the shloks which you have taken is about Atmabodh.
Correct.
Am I right?
Indeed.
And enlightenment, it's not a real translation of Atmabodh. It's that is a knowledge of something. It's only half of that, not full, not specific. What I mean to say.
Indeed. And idea is not to get lost in words, but to try to attempt to understand what is being conveyed. Sanskrit in that way has a far deeper connotation to a lot of words than the English language does in general. But if you find a better word in English, please let me know. Then we will certainly try to adopt it. Universally accepted among this lineage of Vedanta, they've adopted the word enlightenment. Although I totally agree with you, it is not necessarily the complete connotation. Yes, Rashmiji, you had another. You were saying something?
Yeah, I was saying that it is very difficult to. What I was trying to understand is that even if you know this for a fact, it's very difficult to follow it. That's what I was wanting to.
If you know it simply at a superficial intellectual level, it is extremely difficult to follow it. But if you step into it, if you enter into it and imbibe it in your life, if you make it your reality, then it gradually becomes your nature, your second nature. See, anything is difficult in the beginning. You're talking about swimming, you're talking about freestyle or backstroke. No matter how much you talk about it, once I throw you into the pool, at first you'll be struggling. Problem is, people are talking about it, they're not jumping into the pool. Right? So jump into the pool. Jump into the pool or life will throw you into the pool. One way or the other. You can talk about Atman, Brahman for years and years and years. But when, pardon my language, when shit hits the fan, you know that saying in English? Or terrible phrase. But when things go wrong, then it's a test of how much you have actually truly imbibed and adopted, right? So beyond Shravana is Manana. Beyond Manana is truly adopting and observing it in your own life, right? You have to put yourself in that position. So yes, in the beginning it may seem like you're gasping for breath, you're struggling, but once you learn the stroke, it is smooth. It's a dynamic equilibrium. There's a concept in physics called dynamic equilibrium. Means it's an apparent disturbance, but it's smooth, right? It's a beautiful movement. I mean, words cannot convey what I'm trying to say to you. You have to be in it. When you see things happen in your life, and you see your own reaction and response to it. Ultimately, that's the only test of whether these messages of the scriptures are actually, percolating into you. There's no other way for me to test it, right? But definitely repetition of thought, constancy of thought, and beyond that, reflection and meditation upon it is the only way of adopting it into your life. Anji,
Thank you so much.
The concept of swimming, jumping into the pool,
you know everything about it.
I know a little bit.
Om
See,
ji is a champion swimmer.
जंपिंग इनटू द पूल, आपको भय जो है, पहले तो भय मृत्यु का है कि यू सेड गैस्पिंग फॉर द ब्रेथ. सबसे तो जब भय होता है तो दिमाग काम ही नहीं करता. दिमाग काम नहीं करता तो फिर डूबता ही डूबता आदमी. जब आदमी उससे मुक्त हो जाता है, भय से मुक्त हो जाना, then you have equilibrium with the water. Then you know the water is very supporting you actually. Water makes you float. जो क्योंकि मुर्दे तैर लेते हैं और जिंदा आदमी डूब जाते हैं. ये है कॉन्सेप्ट एक्चुअली. और जब आप पानी में जंप करता है तो जो शुरू में तो इतना घबराया हुआ होता है, वो हाथ पांव मार के फिर वहां खड़ा हो जाता है. बट वाटर इज एनालॉजी इज वेरी वेरी गुड. यू हैव टू एक्सपीरियंस इट इन लाइफ. यू हैव टू एक्सपीरियंस इट. ये मैं यही बोलना चाहता हूँ. ये मेथड भी बहुत ही अच्छा है. और खैर आप ज्यादा जानते हैं, मैं तो कम जानता.
नहीं, एब्सोल्युटली. आप मतलब आई एम ग्लैड यू ये एनालॉजी को आप एक्सटेंड कर रहे हो. इट इज इंडीड अ ब्यूटीफुल एनालॉजी. एंड एक बार तैरना सीख गए तो इट्स एलिगेंट. हाँ, इट्स एलिगेंट. यस प्राची और अंकित.
Yes. Just carrying on from what Rashmiji's question was. So, I mean, you said that, there's an unpleasant situation or something, like we don't get sort of affected by it, or, theoretically, like we can sort of like not get very like sort of involved or agitated by it, perhaps. But I mean, you might still have this sort of realization that this is an unpleasant situation, right? And sometimes you don't have a choice but to like sort of live with it or deal with it or something. So, I mean, is that fine? Like having that sort of awareness that this is like unpleasant, but like, can you still be not agitated by it?
There's a very superficial understanding of the scriptures is that, oh, you have to be happy through sad situations. No one is asking you to be sadistic. Okay? If you don't feel happy or sad, you're a stone. Okay? So, we only try to convey through analogies. So always go back to the analogy of two birds.
Okay.
And one bird in you is feeling happy, feeling sad, feeling joy, feeling sorrow, feeling pleasure, feeling pain. Right? And that inner bird in you is watching. That inner bird in you has knowledge or is attempting to gain knowledge, is developing that deeper perspective, is becoming the witness. Right? So the first bird has no choice. It is swimming in, the turbulent waters. Sometimes it's in turbulent waters. Sometimes it's in very smooth, pleasant, waves. But the other bird is always watching, regardless of whether it's in, turbulence or in a breeze, right? So if you suppress your feeling, or if you deny yourself feeling, you're a stone. There's nothing, there's no difference between you and a stone. The idea is not to be a stone. The idea is not to not feel. The idea is to feel, but not get carried away by that feeling. And the only way you'll not get swept away by that feeling is if you constantly reach out to that second bird, that inner bird, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that really helps. Yeah. I think, we sometimes what might happen is you get so involved, you think that, everyone else or you yourself perceive yourself according to that outer bird, and you pay all attention to perfecting that outer bird rather than withdrawing yourself to that inner bird and making sure that that is where you're sort of stationed.
Yeah. So there are all sorts of different concepts we talk about in relation to this as well. We say the outer bird is Nama Rupa. It's a name and a form. Whereas the inner bird is the Paramatma, the Atman. The outer bird, you have to detach yourself. Means you have to gain a sense of objectivity from the outer bird. Means, what is that objectivity? You are connected but disconnected. What does that mean? This body is not me, it is mine. This body is mine, a form which I have temporarily assumed, but it's not me. There is me beyond the body. When you assume that way of thinking, what happens to the body will affect you less. Right now, because you're glued to the body, because you think this body is me, whatever happens to the body happens to you. Whatever happens to your mind happens to you. Your mind feels down. See, this happens all the time. Either you are observing your mind's fluctuations or you are fluctuating with the mind. What is Monday blues? Monday blues is fluctuations with the mind. You've had a great weekend, you've maybe done 2 or 3 fun activities, your mind has been, in ecstasy, not literally, but your mind is ecstatic, and suddenly Monday comes. There's a fall. Why? Because you have to go back to your routine, boring things. You have to catch up with deadlines. You're oscillating with the mind, as opposed to watching. The mind is joyous on the weekend. The mind is falling, but you don't have to rise and fall with the mind. Can you assume that observer, when you witness it, you are joyous throughout. When you oscillate with it, you go through peaks and troughs, right? That's the technique to right living, right? It's not that a spiritual person is sadistic, he's laughing through unhappy and terrible situations. No, but there is a part of him that's an observer, a sakshi. And that sakshi bhav is what creates a sama equanimity. If you are that first bird, you can never be sama. You're always oscillating. But when you are that second bird, that observer, you'll be sama. So through sakshi bhav comes sama bhav.
बिल्कुल ठीक बोला आपने। देखिए, जब कोई सैडनेस होती है, कई दफा उसको वरदान में के रूप में लेना चाहिए। क्योंकि सैडनेस से निकलने का भी कोई तरीका होगा। सैडनेस के पीछे हैप्पीनेस भी छुपी हुई होगी, तो हम लोग उसको एक्सप्लोर नहीं करते। हम वही एक डूबने के हिसाब से अपने को ये डूब के भी हम मरे, अब गए तो गए, हमारी सांस गई सो गई। नहीं, वी हैव टू डिस्कवर the happiness behind the sadness. Once we discover that is the art, that is what we are learning from you.
Absolutely.
मेरा अपना विचार है, गलत भी हो सकता हूँ।
If your life is a straight line, what is a straight line in that heart monitor? Straight line means
gone.
Life shouldn't be a straight line. Life is going to be ups and downs. The observer is watching. That's what makes it equanimous. But life should never be a. आपको मजा, अगर किसी मूवी में उतार चढ़ाव नहीं है तो आपको मजा भी नहीं आएगा ना।
बिल्कुल
10 मिनट में आप बोर हो जाओगे, क्या एक ही सीन दिखा रहे हैं। सस्पेंस, थ्रिल, थोड़ा मजा, थोड़ा दुख।
नहीं, उसके बाद जब विक्ट्री होती है तो एंजॉयमेंट उसका होता है। एक्चुअली व्हेन यू आर विक्टर ओवर योर सैडनेस, तो जो उसका आनंद होता है उसका तो कोई जवाब ही नहीं है। एनीवे,
करेक्ट। ओके, वर्स नंबर 22। भासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय navani grinhati naroparaణि tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinhati naroparaणि tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Very famous verse of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 22. Vasamsi jirnani. Just as a man casting off worn out garments puts on new ones. Just as a man, a person, a woman, anyone. Just as a person casting off worn out garments puts on new ones, so too the embodied casting off worn out bodies enters new ones. Just as a person, vasamsi jirnani, he takes off worn out garments, vasamsi jirnani, vihaya, casting off. So garments that are worn off, garments that are dirty, garments that have served their purpose. आप घर से वापस ऑफिस आते हो शाम को, you take off your office clothes. Why? Because either they are dirty or they've served their purpose. You're done. You don't continue in your office garments in the house. So when the time for a garment is done, you cast it away and you assume a new one. You move into your pajamas, you move into something more comfortable. Same thing in the next morning. You don't go to office in your pajamas, hopefully. You put on some appropriate clothing. You take off your pajamas and put on some appropriate clothing. So you cast off what has served its purpose, and you take on something that's appropriate for the next experience. You cast off what is done with its purpose, and you take on what is appropriate for the next experience. Similarly, the embodied casts off this physical form because it served its purpose. This may not always be evident. This may not always be understandable. This thing called purpose, this thing called the cosmic purpose, it's not maybe understandable to an individual. It's kaleidoscopic. It is vichitra. It is wondrous. It's not easily evident. But once the body has served its purpose, the embodied sheds this body and assumes a new form, assumes a new incarnation, assumes a new physical body. This is called the theory of reincarnation. When the Karana Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, what do you want to call it? Whether you want to call it the soul. When the soul is done with this body, it leaves it and takes the new body for its next experience, for what is to come ahead, right? There can be many people who do not want you to leave the office. Why? Because they have 5 things to ask you, but you have a next appointment. Similarly, at home, there can be many people who don't want you to go. Suppose your mother is visiting, or your child is coming from or has an off day at school. They don't want you to go to work, but you have to go. You need to go, right? So those who are in a particular environment with you, maybe they don't want you to go. Certainly, nobody wants anyone to go. But what appointments you have in your calendar, not everybody knows, right? Maybe you also don't want to go. So this is beyond the individual intellect. The individual intellect cannot surmise, cannot understand, cannot fully understand what is perhaps this cosmic purpose and this movement. But the only thing we can find solace in that, the soul is moving ahead on its journey towards its next purpose. So just as a garment has served its purpose and it's worn out, it is done, it is no longer suitable for the vasanas that have to manifest. So it's taken off, it's put away. And the body has different ways of being put away. Some people go in an instant, some people go after a long struggle, some people go at an early age, some people go at an old age. If anyone says, I know exactly why this happened, I know exactly why someone went at an early age or why someone went in old age, or they know exactly when it will happen, they don't know what they're talking about. If someone says, I know, chances are they're making up something. It's vichitra, it's beyond human comprehension. Why death happens, when it happens, for what reason it happens. There may be a reason, but it's beyond the individual intellect to comprehend it, right? But here is where you require a little bit of surrender. Kate kanta dhanagata chinta vatulakim tava nasti niyanta, the famous words of Adi Shankaracharya in the Bhaja Govindam. Don't you know there is an ordina? Don't you know there is a director of this entire play? The play moves from one scene to another. There is a director that is managing this entire thing. There is a law at work. There is karma functioning. You have to surrender to that. If you take an egoistic notion, no, I will not allow karma to function, things have to happen my way, you're up for disappointment, because kala, karma, waits for no one. It is not subject to anyone. So just as a piece of clothing serves its purpose and is shed, so too this body is shed once it has served its purpose, and the embodied, the subtle body, takes on a new form. Notice the word embodied out here is in small letters, right? So here he is talking about the relative aspect, not the absolute concept which we talked about. He's not talking about the Atman. The Atman doesn't take on a body or doesn't leave a body. The Atman is all pervading. Here he's talking about the subtle and the causal body, the individuality, right? Your individuality, your personality, you want to call it a soul, your soul which is taking on a sthula sharira, a gross form. The Atman is not what is taking on a body or removing a body. The Atman is everywhere. It is within you, it is outside you, it is all pervading. It's like water doesn't take a form. Everything swims in water, right? Water is within, water is without. So here the word embodied, shown in small, refers to the Sukshma Sharira, the Karana Sharira, the mind, intellect, vasanas. That is what goes from one gross body to another gross body. You carry with you your vasanas into the next form. So what kind of vasanas are you cultivating? What kind of deep-seated thoughts are you cultivating? What are you doing with this opportunity called life? Are you replenishing your thoughts with better ones? Because what you will take ahead with you is your vasanas, not anything physical. You will not take ahead with you any wealth, any name, any fame, nothing to do with this sharira, nothing to do with this nama rupa. What you will take ahead with you is your vasanas. What you will take ahead with you is your knowledge, your awareness. So this is the theme of reincarnation, clearly depicted in verse number 22 of chapter 2. Learn it by heart if you can. Omji, yes, you have a
या इस श्लोक को समझने के लिए जो हेल्दी आदमी है वो इतनी जल्दी उसको डाइजेस्ट नहीं कर सकता, लेकिन अगर वो अस्पताल में जाके देखे जो लोग अपनी जिंदगी से स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं, मरने के लिए भी इच्छा कर रहे हैं, जब उनको देखे तब आपको समझ में आता है कि ये श्लोक बिल्कुल हमारे ऊपर लागू होता है कि ये जीवन हमारे लिए बिल्कुल बेकार है। अगर हम ऐसे ही सोचते रहें तो ये जो जीवन है जब खत्म हो जाएगा तो भी हम मुक्त हो जाएंगे उस पीड़ा से, उस जो भी कुछ है, तो ये बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट श्लोक है। आपने बिल्कुल ठीक बोला कि इसको बिल्कुल याद कर लेना चाहिए और हर सांस में इसको सोचना चाहिए कि भाई ये श्लोक है, ये इसका मीनिंग ये है कि मरण धर्म ही है हमारा। सॉरी अगर मैं कुछ ज्यादा बोल दिया तो।
Oh no, absolutely. So, absolutely. जब आप एक अस्पताल में जाओगे और you see anyone who is, whose body is clearly demonstrating a decline, a decay, a struggle, this will be more easily acceptable. But even in case of, a hale, healthy being, which perhaps in our experience hasn't reached its time, right? वहाँ ही ज़्यादा दुख होता है when something goes अकाल, you call it अकाल मृत्यु, right? अकाल मृत्यु जहाँ होती है, दुख वहाँ शायद ज़्यादा होता है, but वहाँ भी it's like if you take this analogy forward, किसी को अगर urgent meeting आ गई किसी को अगर अर्जेंट मीटिंग आ गई तो फटाफट कपड़े बदलने पड़ेंगे और घर से निकलना पड़ेगा, राइट? सो ये अर्जेंट मीटिंग है, ये विचित्र है। संसारो यमतीव विचित्र। अगेन इन द भज गोविंदम आदि शंकराचार्य सेज कि ये संसार जो है ये विचित्र है, ये आपके मेरे समझ से परे है, इट इज बियॉन्ड योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग। So at some point we have to take solace in knowledge and surrender to what is beyond our understanding, right? It is not possible for the intellect to grasp this in its entirety. This is the limit of the intellect. So samsaro yamativa vichitra, beautiful phrase in the Bhaja Govindam. So beyond all these gross, subtle and causal bodies, beyond all this manifestation and unmanifestation, verse number 23. Hanji.
What he's talking, Krishna's talking about true self. So what is true self?
We'll talk about it in verse number 23. It's about the Atman. It's about the true self. So I will address your question through this particular verse number 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapah, na shoshayati marutaha. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, न चैनम क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः. Weapons do not cleave this, nor fire burns this, nor water wets this, nor wind dries it. In this verse he's talking about the Atman. So beyond the gross body which has a beginning and an end, beyond the subtle and the causal body which are changing names and forms, which are assuming new names and forms, beyond your body, beyond your mind, beyond your intellect is your Atman, what you call the real self, what Vedanta calls the real self. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the intellect. You are the Atman. But the Atman is not something that your intellect can understand. The Atman is not something your body and your senses can feel, perceive. Your Atman is not something the mind can feel. Your Atman is like the battery to a torch. The torch is used to shed light on anything and everything in the dark. But the torch can't see the battery that is enlivening it. So the Atman in you is that enlivening principle that allows your intellect to function, that allows your mind to function, that allows your body to function. But it's not something that can be perceived, felt, or conceived by the intellect. It's something that has to be realized. It's something that you have to wake up to realize. Just as a dreamer wakes up to realize that he is the waker. A dreamer wakes up to realize that it was all a dream. So beyond your physical body, beyond your mind, beyond your intellect, Vedanta says there is the Atman. It's not something that's self-evident. It's not something that you and I can easily attune to. But there are corroboratory evidences. There is some sign that there is something beyond this body. The primary corroboratory evidence, the primary evidence in every moment of life is your own declaration of I. You use this word, I, me, throughout your life. So you have a sense of self. You have a sense of self, but you're never entirely sure what comprises that. See, right now you say, I am this body. Right now you say, I am this body. God forbid you lose a finger. I don't want to make it more ghastly, but God forbid you lose a finger. God forbid. Will you be any less? Will you change? Will you have any diminished notion of yourself? Will you have reduced in any form, in any way? So while you assume you are this body, you are actually beyond this body. What happened to the finger? Was it not you? Oh, this is not very useful, this pinky finger, so it's okay. Or what if you lost a thumb? Would you be any less? This thumb is very useful. So while you unconsciously assume yourself to be this body, if you actually come to think of it, you are beyond this body. Your body is constantly changing. Your body is constantly going through a variety of transformations. Are you the body that existed 15, 20, 25 years ago, which had a very powerful digestive system? You could put anything into it. For those of you in Calcutta, back in the day, we used to have puchka eating competitions. 50 puchkas. Gauravji, where are you from?
Calcutta.
How many puchkas did you eat in childhood?
Uncountable, sir.
And now?
Hardly.
More than five, and you'll have to go to the hospital. Forget. So are you that body with a perfect digestive system, or are you this body struggling to digest? Which body are you? See, you haven't changed, right? You say, I used to eat. So the I is the same. I used to eat and I cannot eat now. The I is the same. It's the same Gaurav, right? But the body is completely different. Similarly, the mind. In your teenage years, you used to like someone, you used to watch her all the time. Few years later, you realized you dodged a bullet. Thank God that relationship ended. Are you that mind who used to dream and fantasize about that erstwhile Apsara? Or are you this mind right now who has no feelings for that person anymore? Your mind has gone through complete change. Your mind's emotions change. In childhood, everyone said, I don't want to marry, I don't want to have kids. Are you that mind who didn't want kids? Are you this mind today who absolutely dotes on your children, who can't live without them? Which mind are you? Are you that intellect? I'm going to use this example for the 100th time. Are you that intellect who was a socialist before 25? Or are you that intellect who's not a socialist anymore after 25? See, if you're socialist before 25, if you're not socialist before 25, you don't have a heart. And if you're still socialist after 25, you don't have a head. That's not me saying it, it's a common saying. Which are you? Which intellect are you? Which thoughts, which beliefs, which ideas and ideologies are you? So you are not your body and its senses. You are not the mind and its feelings. You are not the intellect and its ideas and ideologies. Although right now you believe this is me. Right now you believe that my ideas are me. This is my identity. But it's a false identity. It's a temporary identity. So just because you have clung onto it doesn't make it you. You are simply clinging to it, but that doesn't make it you. There is something in you which is permanent. You believe it. There is something in you which is unchanging. Yes, everything around it changes, everything about it changes, but it doesn't change. Your body changes, your personality changes, your mind and its feelings and emotions and ideas and ideologies change, but you don't change. That I in you doesn't change. Vedanta says that I in you is the Atman, is the real self. Realize that. Realize that you are that unchanging entity which neither grows nor diminishes, which is neither born nor dies, which is aja, unborn, which is eternal, beyond birth and death. Nothing in the world can touch it, nothing in the world can harm it. Weapons cannot cleave it. Weapons can hurt your body. Either gross weapons, like an arrow or an axe, can hurt your body, or subtle weapons, words, can hurt your mind. Words can hurt your mind or your intellect, right? Suppose I say something nasty to you right now, or suppose I insult you in front of the entire class right now. You'll be disturbed. So your mind can be hurt by subtler weapons, your intellect can be hurt by subtler weapons, your body can be hurt by grosser weapons, but the Atman cannot be hurt. Weapons do not cleave it. If you disassociate yourself from your mind, if you disassociate yourself from your ego, anyone can say anything to you. It will not make a difference. If you disassociate yourself from your body might be going through a certain pain, but you will be able to disassociate yourself from it. They say Ramana Maharishi was conscious when he was having a surgery on his back. So if you assume that awareness of the Atman, then immediately you are less affected by what is happening to the body, what is happening to the mind, what is happening to the intellect. Weapons do not hurt the body, do not hurt the Atman, it hurts the body. Either the gross body or the subtle body. Fire burns the body. Again, gross fire burns the gross body. Subtle fire, fiery words. I can stir your emotions in a moment. I can say something inciting that will make you feel powerful emotions. I can say something fiery which will either lift your ego or will completely slash it. So fire burns the bodies, but fire doesn't burn the Atman. Water wets it, but not the Atman. So the point is, the elements only affect the bodies. The elements do not affect the Atman. The Atman is unaffected. The Atman is detached. The Atman is beyond all of this. The more and more you are tuned to your real self, your real Atman, the less and less the world will affect you, impact you, bother you. There is beyond your body, beyond your mind, beyond your intellect, that unchanging, eternal self. Tattvamasi, that thou art. That's the ultimate message of Vedanta. Right? But to realize that is the journey. That's the entire spiritual journey. It's not something that you can simply understand by me telling you. Yes, you may believe in it. You may have understood it intellectually. But this is not an object to simply comprehend intellectually. This has to be realized. Just like a dreamer has to wake up. You and me are like dreamers who are talking about the waker. No amount of talking about the waker will make you wake up. or will wake you up rather. You have to wake up to realize it, right? So right now we're simply talking about it. So we're seeding um, a sense of suspicion. We're seeding a suspicion in your mind, and this suspicion is what will carry you ahead on your spiritual journey, on your journey of discovery towards your real self, Tattvamasi, that thou art. This Atman, that Atman is not affected by weapons, is not affected by fire, water, or wind. Nothing in the world can disturb it, can affect it. Realize that. I hope that answers your question, Gaurav. Hanji, Om ji. Yeah.
सर जी, इस श्लोक को जब हम बचपन में रिडल यूज करते थे, जैसे गाना है इचक दाना बीचक दाना, तो उसमें रिडल है, तो हम रिडल यूज करते थे, माइंड टीजर बोलते हैं उसको. तो ये भी एक स्पिरिचुअल रिडल है, और इट प्रोवोक्स योर माइंड टू इमेजिन कि वो क्या चीज है जो जलती नहीं है, जिसको तलवार नहीं काटती. तो इट इज ए रिडल. इट प्रोवोक्स, द गॉड हैज प्रोवोक्ड यू टू थिंक अबाउट इट. और उनको समझाने का तरीका यही है कि दे प्रोवोक विद ए संकेत मात्र, जिसको बोलते हैं, संकेत दे दिया, अब आप सोचते रहो, एंड अल्टीमेटली यू कम टू द कंक्लूजन का अच्छा तो फिर ये होगा. दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ दैट. आई थिंक सो.
Indeed, it's a riddle. It's not clearly speaking about it. It's not directly speaking about it. It's a riddle. Hanji, Gaurav ji, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, here is where we will conclude today. We will not meet on Thursday once again. I have work travels once again. If we can meet on Friday, I will inform you. I think most likely we can meet on Friday. Just give me until this evening to figure that out. But I hope others can meet on Friday. I'll just set up a poll on the group to make sure that people can attend on Friday. So we'll likely see you on Friday, not on Thursday. Okay, with that thought, we'll conclude today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.